Hey guys, Hard Pirates TCG here. What I got for you today is a masterclass on how to deck build properly. And by properly, I mean if you're trying to win games, right? Now, this all obviously changes if you're trying to just have some fun. By all means, go ahead and do that. If you want to build a 50, pacifista army deck, have fun. Feel free to do so. But if you're trying to win games, you need to play around a certain type of formula, right? A blueprint that you need to have to be able to give yourself the best chance of winning. And a lot of times I see people post really odd deck lists that, probably won't work very often. And they're asking for help on, what do I need to fix? What do I have here? What do I need to fix? And you ask them these questions, and they're like, oh, I didn't think of that. Well, did you try this? Oh, I actually didn't think of that. And, it comes from experience because when I first quit back in set 2, I came back for set 3, once Moby Dick was banned, and I built this Katakuri deck, and I went like 1-4 with it. And I was like, damn, like, do I just suck? Like, am I just like bad at this game? Like, I don't know. And then I'd made a couple changes that I felt like weren't really working with the deck. And I came back and I literally went 5-0. I won the whole tournament with Katakuri back in set 3 when Whitebeard was like massive throughout that time. I know it was crazy, right? And it really made me realize that deck building is really important because you could be a really good player and then just lose a ton of games because your deck is not optimized. So I will show you exactly what I'm talking about with specific examples, but first I want to shout out my friend, my pal, Dustin, who is now editing my videos. Dustin, I really appreciate you, and I'm just very excited to be working with you because this saves me a lot of time, and you're obviously going to do a whole lot better of a job than I ever could editing videos and more and thumbnails, because I'm really bad at that. I'm only good at talking sometimes and expressing my opinion. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do the transfer. Let's go ahead and transfer to our first slide. So playing a deck that is not consistent and is not optimized for the meta is just asking to lose games. Every deck, no matter what color, should always play 8 to 12 2k counters. You should always play cards that are relevant into most metas or most meta decks, because if you build your deck around playing against Bello Betty and Blurple Kaido, you will get stomped by Purple Luffy and Sakazuki. Now that's no... Like, obviously that's a given, right? You always want to like build your deck around like, the best decks in the game, because obviously if you play them, you need to be able to stand some type of chance, because the best decks in the game are usually relatively popular all across the board. People like winning, right? It's fun. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and show you my top 8 Treasure Cup Crocodile list. Now, I came up with this list by myself. In fact, I told everyone, a month before the month before I got top 8 at the Treasure Cup, I said, this is the best Crocodile list in the game right now. Like, this deck is absolutely insane, and I came up with it myself. I tweaked the ratios, I play with it a lot, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what this deck really loses to. Like, it has an answer for almost everything. And when I bring you back to my first point, where it says, or one of my first points is, you should always play cards that are relevant into most meta decks. Let me talk to you behind the decision making. So there were 6 decks that were really important that I knew I was going to go against at some point, right? It was Zoro, Law, Whitebeard, Katakuri, Grape Dofi, and Queen. All right, so let's see if we have answers for any one of those decks. All right, okay. Zoro and Law, we have Ulti, and we have Dragon Twister, Demolition Breath. Also, a lot like Strawbeard was very popular in that format. This was really good into, if they try to like boost up and Makino their Izo or their Nami, or even if they had choppers, they play them a little bit too early. Dragon Twister could bottom deck them and give me plus 4,000, which is perfect defense for when they go like Ace or Luffy, or try to buff up their leader or whatever it is. That's these cards right here automatically go really well into 3 of the best decks: Zoro, Law, and Whitebeard, right? Huge matchups, right? Huge matchups. Sentomaru, really good into Katakuri. It's good into Whitebeard. Whitebeard has no removal. Katakuri, the only way for them to remove this is to Thunderbolt it. All right. And then you can follow that up with a Zeph to bounce their Parasparrow. And then once they play a Sogeking, once they play a Parasparrow or a Randolph, you can hit them with Sogeking. And then, if Whitebeard plays a Thatch, you hit them with Sogeking. all of these decks played a ton of slow stuff, right? Even like Film Dofi, like of course, you know, you can like bounce this back if you want to while building a board. You can bounce back Nami and then bounce back Nami and then bottom deck Nami and then bounce back their Luffy, yada yada yada. It's all in curve, right? Even Queen, you can bottom deck like their blockers, or you can bounce back like their 8 costs, right? Like you can bounce back Katakuri with Kaido. You can red rock their stuff. Against all of these different decks, we have answers for them. And notice we are playing 4, 8, 12 2Ks. Crocodile is a slow deck. It needs to be able to survive into the late game. So having as many 2Ks as you can possibly fit into the deck obviously is going to help you survive into the late game, where you thrive because you have all these big bodies that are really hard to remove unless you are also playing blue. So with that being said, let's bring you back to sorry, this sounds like a freaking lecture right now, but but let's bring you back to the second slide, and let me take a sip of this water real quick. Okay, so before you put even a single card into your deck, you have to understand what your deck is trying to do and how to get the most out of that playstyle. I'll give you another example with my Crocodile deck, right? Is I understand Crocodile is a deck that is very slow in the beginning, right? You maybe can play ulti. You maybe play Miss All Sunday. However, if you have no events in the trash, it doesn't really do anything. You can maybe play Senamaru. But as you can, you know, build up your Dawn and more turns go by, you can start playing more impactful characters. However, if you're at really low life, you can't actually play those characters because you're just going to just die, right? So with that being, like I said, you have to understand what your deck's trying to do. I play a ton of 2Ks. I play Sentomaru, who, you know, obviously can take pressure off the board with the passive Fistas. Ulti can obviously take pressure off the board. Dragon Twister can obviously help with the Zoro matchup and Law matchup, who are the most aggressive decks at that point in the game. There's a lot of things that I can do with this to stall into the late game where my big characters can thrive. All of these guys right here, even, you know, Pacifista can get a little work in. He can throw a couple punches, right? But I need to be able to survive into that point with Crocodile, right? So, you know, always figure out how your deck is supposed to win, and then play and build your deck according to that play style, right? Ask yourself, based on the color pool that I have, what is the best strategy to win that either complements what my color identity is or what my leader is trying to do? Let me give you this Sabo deck. Load in the simulator. If you guys notice, I made a lot of changes to it because it was playing too defensive. I had too many blockers in there, and the blockers were causing me to be able to just stall in the mid game, and I'm letting my opponent off the hook. So the way that I changed that is I wasn't playing a single one of these Sanjis early on, and I was only playing 2 Karasu early on, but I figured Karasu is just a really solid card to help me, you know, obviously give the leader minus 1,000 and make it easier for my 5Ks and 6Ks to connect. But I also played the Sanji because he's a mid-game card that is really powerful because he's not only a 6 cost, he's a 6K, but, you know, on curve against Sakazuki, they cannot, and I mean cannot, if you force them to go first, Borsellino bottom deck this. They have to go another way. So if these characters start sticking to the board, instead of playing Luffy on curve, you can play Sanji, and then they don't have a clean answer for him, so he can stick to the board, and then you can play Luffy or Shanks or something, right? Something like that, Zoro, to just keep the pressure going. All right. And then I also decided not to play the Searcher Nami because I felt like starter deck Nami on turn 1 is more conducive to my strategy of being able to protect my characters and play aggressive on curve than you know, being able to search for, let's say, like Luffy or Sanji or Zoro or like anything like that, you know, a rad beam, a guard point. It just felt like every time that I would rather, if I would search with Nami, I'd rather just have the extra Dawn to give to my leader to be able to protect my characters throughout the game, because then obviously sticky rush characters can help you win games and close out games. So that's what we talked about, right? We talked about, you know, based on color pool, what is the best strategy to win? Is it going to be, you know, based on my color pool, right? Or is it going to be based on my leader, right? So for example, obviously because blue has a lot of like removal, obviously you play removal cards to help benefit your strategy, but because you're playing removal cards that are often very expensive, you need to have some type of early game to be able to save you and stall into the late game. So you're playing cards like that. And as in Sabo, I also have had some decent success with this in the local scene. Was I'm playing these cards, Zoro and Karasu and all these rush characters, because I have red as a color pool option, and I'm playing only the best blockers in all of black, because red has terrible blockers, whereas black has the best blockers in the game, and red has the best events in the game and the best rush cards in the game. So I'm playing basically just the best cards from the best color from the color pools that I have available, which is black and red. And I am playing in a way that not only fits this leader's identity, which is saving, not only applying pressure, because red is a deck that applies pressure, but black is hard to get off the board. Black is known for having sticky characters, right? Black is known for having Borsellino and Fukuro and Sabo and all these characters that you can't easily get off the board. So not only is the leader trying to do that himself, where he's trying to obviously apply pressure, but also be able to protect characters like this little like yin yang a leader effect, but every card I play is conducive to that leader effect, and Nami is allowing me to be able to play on curve while also getting my leader effect and be able to provide pressure by sacrificing no Dawn. It feels great, guys. It feels absolutely great. So let's go ahead and go back to the slide. So does my deck like to go first or second? What cards can help on every turn on curve to give me either perfect tempo or build towards my win con? So obviously specific examples will go back to the Crocodile, right? And we'll keep alternating between Crocodile and Sabo because these are two decks that I came up with myself. But in this specific example, obviously my deck wants to go first. So if you look at my curve, I have Ulti and Sentamaru and Zeph, Sogeking, all these odd cards, right? But if I ever am forced to go second, I have the Pacifistas. I have, obviously, I mean, you can play Mihawk if you want to, but he's just a 2K. I can just pass my turn and then leave Dawn up for Dragon Twister. I also, on 6 Dawn, can just swing 5K with my leader, play Sentamaru, activate his effect, and then get a Pacifista for 6 Dawn. There's a lot of things. I can Red Rock, I can 3,000 Worlds. Just because that my deck wants to go first doesn't mean I should not play any going second options. It just so happens to help that, going second is not too bad with this deck as well. But this deck prefers to go first. So the majority of your cards should be going first. Now, if you're Purple Luffy, for example, Purple Luffy prefers to go first. However, you should have match or cards where you go second with, right? For example, Magellan is a really good card. I think the 5/7 Babanuki Vanilla is a good card. Same with Sabo right here. We have, Nami is a going first card, and then Nami plays perfectly into Zoro, and then that into Luffy, and then into Sanji, and then into Shanks, and into Luffy. There's so much tempo with this deck because we are playing it in a specific way, and if it operates as intended and you see all the cards that you need to see, it is very likely that you are going to have a very easy game. So, Blurple Kaido. This is another cool deck building tech. Can use Punk Vice. For those of you guys who don't know, I actually figured this out a couple days ago, but what it does is, activate main. It's a 3-cost event. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters at a cost of 2 or less, and add up to one of your Dawn cards as rested, and rested. So obviously Sakazuki wants to go second. So if you take their going second on your second turn, you can play this card with Blurple Kaido, rest a brand new, or for example, a pudding, gain a Dawn, so you are at 5 Dawn now, and then you put a Dawn on your leader and attack the brand new or the pudding, and then you gain a Dawn when you kill it as active. So you go from 4 Dawn to 5 Dawn with this effect, and then you go to 6 Dawn with what is it? I'm sorry, your leader effect. And then I know on this I said a 7-cost king or kid, but with 8 Dawn you can go into a lot of stuff. You can go into bullet if you want to. You can go to king. You can go to kid, and then obviously leave something up for blast breath or something like that, or whatever it is, desert spotto, anything like that. Put a Dawn on your leader and swing. You can immediately go to a very high amount of of Dawn, especially if you play this kid on 8 Dawn, you can swing for 7k at something, whether it be on the board or whatever it is. In Blurple Kaido, and the identity of Blurple Kaido is I want to ramp really fast and then just drop big bodies. So that is something that can really help you ramp to like really fast, right? So yeah, that's that, right? So that's basically, we're just talking about identity, right? I gave you examples for Sabo, I gave you examples for Sakazuki, I gave you examples for Crocodile. All of these cards, you know, you play them specifically based on like a curve that they need to follow, or, you know, specifically for combo decks, you play them to be consistent. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but brings me to my next slide. Was I started playing some going first cards in Sakazuki because I was forced to go first with Sakazuki, and I was playing on really bad curves. Like I had no going first cards, right? I had like, obviously Marineford is a going first card, Ulti's a going first card, Sabo is now a going first card because you can play him realistically on 5 Dawn. And, you know, obviously Borsalino is 7 Dawn, so it kind of like helps fix your curve in the early game. That way you're just not swinging with your leader for like, you know, 10k every single turn until you can actually get to your combo pieces. I was playing, because every time I started playing these cards is because every time I played Purple Luffy and they would win the dice roll, I was forced to go first. And if they Magellaned, they'd put me at 4 Dawn, and I was in a really bad spot where if I didn't have the Hound Blaze, then I pretty much just lost every time. And if I didn't have some type of cost reduction for the Magellan, then I was going to lose every time. And, you know, this copy of Ulti right here, I said in my deck profile video, is my 6th copy of Hound Blaze, and Marineford right here is technically, I said 5th copy of Hound Blaze, or I'm sorry, of Great Eruption before, but with Tsuru, the 2k counter, it is actually my 9th copy of Great Eruption, because all of them minus 2k or 2 power to a character on curve. So you need to understand what your deck loses to and problem solve by adding cards that help with your biggest weaknesses, right? So like if your deck is like just loses to really early aggression, what are some cards that you can add to help stall into the late game, right? Now also, guys, not every deck is going to have an answer, right? I've been trying to make Blurple Croc work, and I just can't figure out a way to make it work consistently into Sakazuki, Enel, Purple Luffy, like Katakuri. Like it just seems like it always is losing to like 2 or 3 of those decks, no matter how much I tweak it. It just doesn't have the capacity. Some decks don't have the capacity to be good into the meta. It's just plain and simple. But there are some decks that have, you know, special strengths and certain playstyles that can potentially be really good into the meta. We saw with Wimmy, our Doflamingo player, our blue Doflamingo player, get top 6 or get top 8 at a big tournament. We had 86 people in this tournament. She went, 5-2 and won top 16, and you know, had a close game, a really good game in top 8 against the Sakazuki. So, you know, there's a lot of decks that can compete in this meta, and you know, if you can follow these strategies, you can definitely find one and, you know, maybe surprise a couple people with it, win a couple locals, or maybe top an event, who knows. So brings me to my next point of stay away from cards that are only good in theory or in random situations that do not actually occur very often, or if they do, it doesn't really matter, right? So like I see so many people, or I don't see so many people, but I've seen people talk about Shockwave, or I'm sorry, Impact Wave, whatever it is. I don't know what the real translation for it is, but Impact Wave or Shockwave, whichever one. You know, in Sakazuki, they're like, oh, it's searchable with brand new, right? Realistically, you are never going to search this card in 1,000 years. And if you do search it, you're probably already losing anyway. If you need this as like a counter, if you need a 4K counter, it is very likely that you're already going to lose. And, you know, they're going to play around it because you searched it. They have the knowledge that you had it, or that you have it. So they're going to play around it, right? So it's like, realistically, yes, you can play this with, you know, with Sakazuki, but there's no reason to. Same with like, I think Sakazuki, and same with Kobe too. I know people are like, you know, people like to play like one Kobe as like a tech. I think Kobe's a bad card in Sakazuki. You don't want to trash your cards from your hand, right? Like Sakazuki is a deck that revolves around like not card advantage, but like just having cards in hand to be able to like combo off. And Kobe discarding a card to kill a 3, like it seems good on paper because you can like bring him back with Rebecca, but at the same time, like if you do that, like it's kind of you're just going neg, like you're just going negs. Like same with Sakazuki. Like of course you can like use your leader effect and like use like your stage to like KO a 7 and then have a 7 cost and then have like a 7k on the board. But like realistically, you're just like discarding a card, right? Like this is Kobe, and like Kobe and Sakazuki, you don't want to discard cards, especially when you have cards that can just bottom deck stuff for free, like Borsalino, where you don't have to pay a cost, or even like cards like Mihawk, like where you don't have to pay a cost to be able to use them. So like, why would you play any card that like makes you discard? It just doesn't make any sense. And then I put Ace right here too, is because like back when Set 4 released, a lot of people were playing Ace in starter deck 10 Law. And I was like, if you're playing the deck right, you're almost never going to be at 7 Dawn. Now, of course, you can like play your deck so like where you like don't use your deck as aggressively, like leader effect, but it's kind of taking away what Law wants to do. Law wants to swarm the board fast and apply a lot of pressure to your life. And if you're not using your leader effect a lot, then like you're not really doing that, right? And if you do get to 7 Dawn and play this Ace, like it's not going to do a whole lot because you're already probably relatively far behind. So that's just my humble opinion. I don't see anyone play Ace in the new Set 5, so maybe it was just because of the lack of cards in Set 4, but I actually went 5-0 at a tournament at my locals playing starter deck 10 Law, and I didn't play this card at all. So that's that. So that I personally just don't like this card at all. So we only have a couple more slides left, but we'll talk about combo decks that need to have searching. Like combo decks need to have searching because you can't rely on taking life or draw for turn to get you multiple pieces of your missing puzzle. So for example, with Nami, you always used it in decks like Zoro or Law or a lot of times Whitebeard, is because though, like, I mean, Whitebeard obviously kind of is just like icing on the cake because they're like already a super consistent deck, but decks that were like needed like a bunch of pieces, like Zoro didn't really need a bunch of pieces, but like obviously playing a card like Dodon can help you search for like Magra or Makino. That can certainly be a combo to help you like overextend your plays and then obviously do like a ton of damage in one turn. And then brand new obviously for Sakazuki even has 2 draws per turn, and sometimes it isn't enough to actually get you the cards that you need to get on time and on curve. So brand new is really helpful for that, and he also helps you rely on what's it called? It helps you be able to get Lucci active faster and like Moncherie active faster. However, and I'm sorry, this video is a little bit long. However, in the Sabo deck right here, I elected, like I said, to not play the OP01 Nami because it just felt like every time I wanted to play OP01 Nami instead of starter deck 1 Nami, it just felt like it was just worse. Now, I didn't fall into the trap because obviously you can play both. You can play for this Nami and for the Searcher Nami, but the ideal turn 1 play is this Nami instead of the other one. All right, I know that sounds probably kind of confusing, but you always have to like ask yourself, like, how good is this search going to be? Like how important is searching? I always say if your deck has a lot of if you're not playing a combo deck and your deck has a lot of standalone characters, sometimes you don't need searchers. Like for example, like Whitebeard obviously can just play them because, like why not play them, right? Because like the deck had a lot of room. It was just play like vanillas and rushers and events basically, right? It had a ton of room. But if you're playing a deck that like doesn't need to search, right? Like if you're just playing a deck that like just plays a bunch of rush characters and that's it, like there's no other strategy, sometimes there's not a need to like play a card like Nami, and like especially because if you want to play like another one cost, like for example, sometimes Izo is better, sometimes none are better, right? Like for example, sometimes the best VV list I ever saw didn't actually play Nami. It played like, I think it played Izo, I want to say, and or maybe it played Perona. I don't remember exactly which one, but like you're able to like kind of like set up your draws that way you can like use your effect. But like don't fall into the trap of using searchers just to use searchers. Sometimes they're not actually that good in certain decks. So I think we have 2 more slides left, guys. Sorry, my voice is getting kind of scratched here, but just because your deck can play something doesn't mean it should. We often fall into the trap of playing Nami in every red deck or Bonnie in every green deck. Sometimes there's other options to go that don't rely on Bonnie, or maybe Wano, or maybe the Don Quixote family is better overall for this meta. You have to ask yourself, what is more important? Is this 8 cost Kid more important in Rosinante, or do I really like this Banish off Yamato to help with the yellow matchup? Is Film a better option for, certain decks because, I have the Swarm potential and my deck is normally pretty slow, but if I, play the Film version, is it going to allow me to be able to get into the late game? So like that's something with like Rosinante, for example, like, You know, like you can possibly play the film engine if you want to kind of help with that early game, like missing tempo, if that makes sense, you know. And then obviously you can play, like, instead of playing Supernova slash, you know, Don Quixote, you can play film slash Don Quixote, or you can play Wano slash film or Wano slash Don Quixote. You don't always have to play Bonnie. I know everyone like is like, oh, 8-cost kid is great. 8-cost kid is fantastic, but sometimes Yamato and being able to search for like Nekomamushi in certain formats, or, you know, film being able to search for like Bartolomeo in certain formats is just overall better. So, you know, based on what the meta is, what is a better call in terms of searchers, and do you need to play searchers at all? Which brings us to our last slide, is make your deck have the best curve in the game, or a curve that is really hard to stop if you get all the right pieces. That way you can get a guaranteed win off if it pays off. So for example, for Sakazuki, it's a really strong curve. It's brand new on 2 Dawn. Kuzan, draw a card. If they can't get rid of it, you are going to basically just kill something basically for free, right? If they do kill it, great. I have Rebecca. Rebecca gets Hina from the trash, Hound Blaze, plus 3,000 my leader, bottom deck something, swing 8k, all right? The next turn, Ice Age or Great Eruption, and then Borsalino. The next turn, 10-cost Kaido. Guys, that is so hard to beat going second, right? Or I'm sorry, going first, because we have a perfect curve that not only gives us a card with brand new, it gives us a card with Kuzan. It puts 2 bodies on the field, 1 blocker, 1 5k attack, allows you to swing really tall with your leader and get rid of a character off the board. This establishes a big body as well as, you know, a draw with Ice Age, and gets rid of a body off the board. And then this lets you draw 4 and puts a 12k on the board. It's so hard to stop that, guys. Same with this crocodile deck. I play Zeph. Okay, he's a 6k. I play Sogeking. He's a 6k. I play Mihawk. He's a 9k. And then I play Kaido. He's a 12k. And I'm just swinging constantly. Every turn that I play one of these characters, I go 6 at life, 6 at life, 9 at life, 12 at life. You can't stop all those attacks, especially when I'm just popping or bottom decking your blockers and then bouncing them with my leader effect. It's just so hard to stop. So with that being said, guys, I hope this helped you. I don't know if I missed anything. If you think I missed anything, let me know below in the comments. But I know this is a really long video. I apologize for it. And yeah, let me know if you guys like this video. A like would really help a lot. You know, subscribing would help a lot too. Guys, I do want to say real quick, I'm at almost 5,300 subs. And I think this time last month, I was barely at 4,000. So this is fantastic. Like, I couldn't ask for a better community here. You guys have been great. Absolutely great. And, you know, the success that I'm having off this channel is literally because you guys choose to watch my videos whenever I post them. So I couldn't be more thankful for that. I couldn't be more blessed. It really means a lot to me that I'm able to express my opinion and my voice whenever it comes to this game. And I'm hoping I can keep your trust and love for a very long time to come, especially because I have very exciting stuff on the horizon that, you know, I think is going to be really good for the community, just like I hope these videos are for you. So, if you guys want to check out my coaching, join my Discord below and check out coaching stuff, the channel on my Discord. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.